Jerry Jones has made it clear that Dak Prescott is his guy at quarterback here for the Dallas Cowboys. And then when you look down the depth chart at that position, you've got Cooper Rush, a guy who turned heads left and right last season. And then you have Will Grier, who you don't really know much about. Well, here on our season finale of Building the Board, we're going to talk about the play callers and what the Cowboys could potentially look for out of a quarterback this season. Do they need one in this year's draft? Can they wait? For all those questions and more, let's bring in Patrick Walker. Patrick, the quarterback position, it's weird to be talking about that because when you think about Dallas, you don't really think you need a quarterback, at least analytically speaking. Dak Prescott has been the guy. He's still the guy. He will be the guy for the foreseeable future, but there's always a but. Right? You never know what could happen. Let's talk about the future of this position with the Cowboys.
Absolutely. Capital B, capital U, capital T. The Cowboys know what they're getting from Dak Prescott. That's why he's the franchise quarterback here in Dallas and presumably will be for years to come. But behind him, what do you got? You have Cooper Rush, who acquitted himself very well in the absence of Dak Prescott. 4-1, helped keep the Cowboys season on the rails when Dak Prescott suffered that fractured thumb in the Week 1 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2022. But it was Will Grier who arguably had the lead over Cooper Rush in training camp last season before he himself suffered an injury in August that then thrust Cooper Rush back into the QB2 role. Don't know exactly what you're getting from Will Grier just yet. Know what you're getting from Cooper Rush, but he's also no longer a spring chicken, so to speak. That's why Jerry Jones said he's looking to start drafting every single year so he could have a quarterback to develop. And there are some intriguing names in this year's draft that he might want to take a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to Will Grier for a moment because it's so interesting. He's kind of like been this mystery man all season, especially with the season that Cooper Rush had at quarterback filling in for Dak. And you've got to start thinking, too, when it comes to Prescott, he is a little injury prone. He's had a couple major injuries that have kept him out, so you want to make sure you're keeping his health at the forefront when you're making those decisions. But with Grier specifically, what does he offer at quarterback? Because you know what you're going to get out of Cooper. What are you going to get out of Will?
Well, with Will Grier, you're going to get something that Cooper Rush doesn't necessarily offer. Now, I like to call Cooper Rush Cool Hand Luke. He's always going to be right there in the middle. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, no matter what happens. But with Will Grier, you're going to get a little bit more of a risk taker. Will Grier is a little bit more of that archetype of Dak Prescott. Are the two directly comparable? No. That's why Dak Prescott is QB1. But Will Grier gives you escapability out of the pocket when under pressure, gives you mobility, but he also gives you that big arm down the field. And when you talk about bringing in a guy like Brandon Cooks, those two talents really will jive well in the event that Dak Prescott does miss some games this season.
Well, Grier has been in the Dak yard working out with the guys, hanging out. But listen, we know that this is a possibility that the Cowboys could maybe look at a quarterback later in the draft. We know it's not going to be Bryce Young. We know it's not going to be C.J. Stroud. But we're going to bring in Kyle Yeomans to talk about some guys who we should be keeping our eye out on.
You know, this is an interesting class when it comes to mid-round targets at quarterback. No, the Cowboys are not in contingency running to go get a C.J. Stroud or a Bryce Young or even a Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, Hendon Hooker. All of that is out of the question. But mid-round prospects are abundant in this draft. There's guys like Tanner McKee from Stanford, maybe even a Jaron Hall from BYU, Max Duggan from TCU later. But there's one guy that Cowboys Nation keeps circling back to, and he played his high school ball just down the street in the DFW area, played his collegiate ball just down I-45 in Houston. It's Clayton Tune, and Clayton Tune brings a level of swagger, but he also brings a level of consistency as well. That's the consistency I'm talking about. 12,000 passing yards, 104 touchdowns, 40 of those passing touchdowns came in 2022 alone. He was one of the big reasons why the University of Houston continued to see an uptick in the American Athletic Conference, and he did it against all sorts of different competition. The one thing about Clayton Tune that's probably the most impressive, he does a lot of things well, but his arm strength allows him to throw it to any part of the field. This is an example of how he uses the deep third. This is right over the middle. He's going to throw this deep ball in between the hash marks on the money to Tank Dell, who's also a University of Houston draft prospect, but he does so by actually evacuating some pressure. The pressure collapses on the right-hand side, off-balance throw, and he delivers this 54 yards down the field on the money to Tank Dell over the top of a Big 12 secondary. Boom, there's one example. But what can he do sideline to sideline? This is against Tulane, a team that won the Cotton Bowl against USC this year and has some draft prospects of their own right. This time he's not going deep third over the middle of the field. He's going to go with a deep ball to the outside sideline. He's going to go all the way to the left here. Look at this. Better protection this time. There's a little bit of pressure coming off the edge here, but no worries for Clayton Tune. Steps up, delivers a ball over not one, but 2, 3 defenders in the vicinity there, and he makes a nice throw. Easy money for a nice little catch out of bounds. One last thing he does well is he uses his legs, but he uses them in the right way, where it's a sparing way for him to pick up yards and avoid pressure. We've already seen him avoid pressure a couple times here. This is against East Carolina. They're going to bring a linebacker on a blitz here. If we go ahead and press play, look at this. Very quickly coming out here. Excuse me, that was a defensive back coming on the blitz. There's nobody blocking this man right here. It is all awareness for Clayton Tune to know not only does he have to evacuate, but he's going to have to avoid whatever's happening out here by going out to his right. So he has the presence of mind and the athleticism to get away from this defensive back that's chasing him down. And then he's got a wide open field. Look at this. He's going to run for a first down, right? I mean, plenty of time here, plenty of opportunity to go and run for a first down. Not so fast. Look at the way he delivers this ball on the money downfield. Sees just a sliver of a window for a touchdown, one of 40 that he had throughout his final season with Houston. I've said that like 3 times already because that's just how impressive he was in the American Athletic Conference. Now, here's the thing. We talk about fit with the Cowboys. You have to be better than Will Grier. You have to be better than Cooper Rush. But as a developmental quarterback, he might not be right there yet. He could be with the arm strength. I think his arm strength is certainly comparable, but it's the moxie, it's the delivery, it's the what he does to a locker room that really is going to get teams excited in those mid-rounds. If you want to pick up a quarterback in the 4th round, maybe even as early as the 3rd at pick number 90, Clayton Tune might be that one guy.
I tell you what, if you've been following Houston and or watching Clayton Tune's film this offseason, it's not hard to dance to Clayton's tune. I'm a big fan of that guy. And
you had to set that up.
I had
all
to,
the way through,
but also it was interesting because I spoke with Clayton at the NFL Combine. Guess who he told me he modeled his professional?
I'm guessing it's Dak Prescott?
No.
Oh.
Tony Romo.
Ah.
That's who he wants
that was a trick question.
That's who he wants to model
nice.
his professional career after.
Hey, I got to be honest. I hope that no other teams see that last play you just showed because what the heck? The ability, the awareness to see a massive human coming at you, to not only avoid that, but instead of taking the safe bet, using your legs to get the first down, that moxie, that gut to just, I'm going to throw it up there. He's there somewhere, right? That's what that reminded me of. But you really start to see the athleticism with some of these mid-round guys because we know what Bryce can do. We know what CJ can do, right? All of those top quarterbacks. But I like the tune of this kid.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
There you go. And I like that too. The one thing I do want to add here is Clayton Tune's not alone in the fact you mentioned moxie. Every team in the NFL right now, and this might be a sore subject for Cowboys fans, so I apologize. Every team in the NFL in this draft is looking for the next Brock Purdy. They're looking for that Mr. Irrelevant, that back half quarterback recruit that didn't necessarily wow scouts initially, but still brings that mentality, brings the athleticism. Because out of the 5 day 3 guys that were drafted last year at the quarterback position, 4 of them started in their rookie year. So you're going to see a lot of those quarterbacks that go on day 3 have to be pushed into starting duties because quarterbacks do get hurt. It happens all the time, especially whenever you mix and match guys. I'm not saying the Cowboys are mixing and matching, but if you need a guy that steps in and starts, having a guy with moxie like a Jake Haener from Fresno State, like a Clayton Tune from Houston, that definitely goes a long way with these front offices.
And when it comes to day 3, the Cowboys are going to have some options. Obviously, you talk about Clayton Tune, but then you look at a guy like Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. Not only does Dorian Thompson-Robinson have the moxie and the swagger, the escapability, the big arm, but he also has the same archetype as Will Grier. He has everything that the Cowboys are looking for if in the event they lose Dak Prescott for a game or two. Which of these quarterbacks on day 3 can you plug in and not have to alter your playbook wildly? Dorian Thompson-Robinson is one of those guys. And then you look at Max Duggan, obviously the TCU guy, runner-up for the national championship. Absolute gamer. There are some knocks to his game. I'm all for hearing them, but I'm telling you right now, when you talk about getting the job done, never giving up, that's the kind of moxie, like we're talking about, that the Cowboys would love to have and do have in Dak Prescott. They're seeking it in quarterback too.
It always helps to be a local talent as well. So Max Duggan's kind of got that in his back pocket. So does Clayton, as you mentioned.
Yes, he does.
So a lot of good analysis, boys. We appreciate it. This will do it for our Building the Board series for 2023.
Shucks.
Up next is the NFL Draft. But before we get there, make sure you stick with us on DallasCowboys.com for all your Cowboys content. We'll keep you updated as we get ready for the big day. For Patrick, I'm Haley, for Kyle, this is Building the Board. We'll see you next season.